that feeling like the rug's been pulled out from under you. As a fan, I mean, when someone, a creator you've loved for years, is suddenly hit with these serious accusations, it's like this knot of emotions, you know? It's what a lot of Neil Gaiman fans are going through right now.
Yeah, it's a lot to process, and it goes beyond just the accusations themselves, right? Like, we've seen this whole chain of events that have really shaken Gaiman's career and left his fans kind of reeling.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today, trying to untangle it all.
Right.
We've got a stack of news articles, Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, places like Comic Book Movie, Rolling Stone, even Gaiman's own blog posts. Social media.
Wow.
We're aiming to paint a clear picture of what's gone down and help you make sense of it all.
Yeah, if you're a Gaiman fan and you're trying to wrap your head around all of this, or even if you're just interested in how these kinds of allegations can just derail an artist's entire career, this one's for you.
For sure. So let's start by mapping out the timeline. It seems like the first rumbles were back in July 2024 with that Tortoise Media podcast.
Right, that was called Master, the allegations against Neil Gaiman.
Okay.
And it had 5 women sharing their stories alleging misconduct by Gaiman. That seems to be when these accusations first hit the public.
And then January 2025, things really exploded with that big New York Magazine piece.
Oh yeah, There Is No Safe Word by Leila Shapiro. It featured accounts from 8 women. Some of them were also on that Tortoise podcast. It definitely felt like a turning point in terms of media attention.
Yeah, and this is where things get really serious because one of those women, Scarlett Pavlovich, she was a former nanny for Gaiman, and his then-wife, Amanda Palmer, she filed these lawsuits.
Multiple lawsuits, and not just your run-of-the-mill lawsuits either.
Right.
Pavlovich filed in 3 different states, Wisconsin, New York, and Massachusetts. Alleging that Gaiman raped and trafficked her.
And these lawsuits also claim that Palmer was complicit, that she procured and presented Pavlovich for abuse.
Yeah, they did.
This is heavy stuff. They're talking $1 million in damages, which pulls Amanda Palmer, who had split with Gaiman back in 2020, right into the middle of this whole thing.
Right into it. And the lawsuits claim she knew about Gaiman's alleged history of misconduct, but didn't warn Pavlovich. There's one quote that really stuck with me.
I'll lay it on us.
Had Palmer warned Scarlett of the known danger posed by Gaiman, Scarlett would never have agreed to babysit Palmer's child at Gaiman's house.
Okay, so we've laid out the accusations, but what about Gaiman? What's he had to say about all this?
He's denied all the allegations.
Has he addressed it directly? Or is this all through, like, spokespeople?
Both. Actually, we've seen statements from his representatives, but Gaiman's also spoken out on his own blog.
Yeah. Okay, and what's he say? Any quotes we can pull from?
Yeah, in a post from January 14th, Gaiman says, flat out, "I have never engaged in non-consensual sexual activity with anyone, ever."
So he's not holding back at all, completely denying everything.
No.
But even with those denials, this is already having a huge impact on his career, right?
Huge, like a cascade playing out in public.
Where do we even begin with that?
Well, first thing was Gaiman's UK agency, Casarato Ramsey and Associates. They dropped him as a client pretty much right after the New York Magazine article came out.
And it wasn't just about representation. Publishers cut ties too.
Yep. Dark Horse Comics, they published a lot of his work. They said they'd no longer be working with him. They even canceled the comic adaptation of Anansi Boys, which was already in production.
Why? Canceling a project that was already going. That shows how seriously they're taking these allegations. Even with Gaiman's denials, what about film and TV? Seems like that'd be even harder to untangle.
Definitely, and we've seen a ripple effect there too. Netflix canceled Dead Boy Detectives.
Oh, wow.
It was going to be a spin-off series from The Sandman, based on Gaiman's characters.
Okay, so one show down, but The Sandman was massive for Netflix. Surely it's too big to be affected, right?
About that, even The Sandman isn't immune. Netflix announced that season 2, which is coming out later this year, will be the final season.
Hold on, The Sandman is ending.
It is now. Sources are saying this was always the plan, but the timing is hard to ignore.
Wow, even a hit show like that can't escape this kind of gravity? What about Good Omens? Another popular adaptation.
Good Omens is affected too, but not as drastically.
How so?
They planned a full season 3, now they're cutting it way back.
What do you mean cutting it back?
Instead of a whole season, it'll just be a single 90-minute episode to wrap things up.
So basically an early end. And what about stuff in development? Anything else on hold?
Disney has pressed pause on their adaptation of The Graveyard Book. Not clear if it'll ever get going again.
So canceled shows, shortened seasons, projects shelved. The impact on Gaiman's career is undeniable. And circling back to Amanda Palmer, who's named in those lawsuits, what she said since it's all broke.
She's been pretty quiet, which is surprising considering how active she usually is online. She posted on Instagram a few weeks ago saying things were tough, but she didn't address the allegations directly.
Sounds like a tough spot to be in. What about the fans? How's this all landing with the people who love Gaiman's work?
It's been interesting to watch. Not a single unified response at all.
Give us a picture. What are you seeing?
You've got fans who are standing by Damon. They point to his denials, the presumption of innocence, and they believe him. They're separating the art from the artist.
Which is understandable. His work has been so important to so many people, but I imagine there are fans who are having a much harder time with this.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of fans feel really betrayed and hurt, trying to figure out how to reconcile their love for Gaiman's work with the seriousness of these accusations.
And what are they doing? Are they stepping away from his work?
Some are. There's this growing movement to boycott his books and adaptations. Others are talking about their pain and disappointment online, discussing the ethics of supporting an artist accused of these things. It's a really fraught conversation.
It's complicated. No easy answers. I think a lot of people are wrestling with that gray area between innocent until proven guilty and the very real emotional impact of these accusations.
It's an ethical and emotional minefield. How do you love something made by someone who may have done terrible things? It's not easy to answer, and it's something a lot of Gaiman fans are dealing with right now.
And this isn't just about Neil Gaiman, is it? This is happening all over fandom culture as more and more of these situations come up.
You're right. It's this bigger conversation about how we deal with fandom when the creators we look up to are accused of harmful behavior. How do we reconcile the art with their actions?
It's becoming impossible to ignore. And there's no simple answer, is there?
Not at all. It's a personal question. Everyone has to find their own way. But I think the first step is to acknowledge how complex it is and resist jumping to easy answers.
Sit with the discomfort, the uncertainty, be willing to have those tough conversations with ourselves and with each other, which is exactly what we're going to keep doing in this deep dive.
We'll dig into the nuances, explore the different viewpoints, and hopefully give you some insights to help you navigate this.
So stick around, because we're just getting started.
It's really making us think about how we consume art these days, you know, in a world where the artist's personal lives are always under scrutiny.
Yeah, and social media makes it even more blurry, right? You feel like you know these creators, you follow their lives. Then something like this drops, and it's like, wait, who is this person? Really?
Exactly. It makes you question your whole idea of them, the people making the art we love, and sometimes, yeah, it shatters that image.
Absolutely. We've been talking about this broadly, but let's zoom back in. What exactly are these lawsuits saying?
Okay, so Pavlovich's lawsuits, they were filed in federal court. They have some very specific and disturbing claims. They allege that Gaiman repeatedly raped and assaulted her when she was working as a nanny. They also go into detail about controlling and abusive behavior.
Like what?
Incidents where she was allegedly choked, hit with a belt.
That's awful. And the lawsuit says this abuse went on for months.
That's what it claims. It alleges that it all started soon after Pavlovich started working for Gaiman and Palmer early 2022 and went on for quite a while.
And just to be clear, Gaiman is denying all of this completely.
Yes, completely. His denials have been consistent, unwavering. His lawyers are getting ready to fight this in court.
So where does that leave things? What's next?
Well, the legal process will keep grinding on. There'll probably be more investigations, depositions, all that, discovery, maybe even a trial if they don't settle out of court.
And what about Gaiman's career in the meantime? Can he bounce back from this, even if he's never found guilty?
Tough question. You know, public opinion can be just as powerful as any court, and Gaiman's reputation has taken a hit, a big one.
We're seeing that with all the canceled projects, productions put on hold.
Exactly. And it's all happening at a time when people are super sensitive to these issues. Sexual misconduct. Yeah.
You're right. The hashtag #MeToo movement changed everything. It's not so easy to just deny accusations and move on anymore.
Exactly. There's a huge expectation for accountability now, and the consequences can be really serious, really fast, even without a criminal conviction.
So this deep dive has covered a lot. The timeline of allegations, those lawsuits from Scarlett Pavlovich, Gaiman's denials, and how it's all affecting his career.
And we talked about Amanda Palmer being involved and how the fans are reacting, all very different.
It's a lot to take in, and it leaves us with some hard questions. Questions that don't have easy answers, honestly.
And that's why we're having this conversation. These are important things to think about, even when they're difficult and uncomfortable.
I agree. So as we wrap up this part of the deep dive, we want to leave you with something to really ponder.
When you have these accusations against a creator you love, how do you deal with that? How do you reconcile your love for their art with the fact that they might have done terrible things.
Can you separate the art from the artist? Is that even possible?
And maybe even more important, what responsibility do we have as fans? Do we support them? Distance ourselves? What do we do with creators who are accused of this kind of thing?
Those are heavy questions, no easy answers.
Nope, it's a deeply personal thing. Each person has to figure it out for themselves, but at least we need to recognize how complex it is and not jump to conclusions.
Sit with the discomfort, the uncertainty, be willing to have those hard conversations with ourselves and with each other. That's what we're doing here and what we're going to keep doing in this deep dive.
We're going to dig deeper into the nuances, see the different sides of this, and hopefully offer some insights to help you figure this out.
So stick with us. We're not done yet. All right, we're back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into the Neil Gaiman situation, the allegations, how it's impacted his career, and the tough questions it's raising for fans.
Yeah, this one's got a lot of layers to it, touches on some big universal stuff, like we've been saying.
Definitely bigger than just one author, right? It's like we keep seeing the same scenario play out with artists and creators from all kinds of fields. Feels like every other week, there's another headline about someone we thought we knew facing some serious accusation.
It does feel that way, doesn't it? And every time, it sparks those same arguments. Can you separate the art from the artist?
And people get pretty passionate about it.
Yeah.
On one side, you've got those who say, boycott anything made by someone accused of wrongdoing, no matter what, even if you loved their work before.
And then the other side says, hey, you can still appreciate the art without condoning what the person did.
It's a minefield, really. No easy answers that fit every situation.
Nope. And I think we got to remember that for some people, this hits really close to home. It's deeply personal, you know. If you've experienced abuse, seeing someone you admired accused of that same thing, it can be incredibly triggering.
For sure. Brings up all kinds of trauma. Makes it impossible to see that artists work the same way. And in those cases, it's totally valid to walk away from it. Protect yourself. That always comes first.
Absolutely. And it's worth saying, these conversations, they're still evolving, right? How we understand consent, power dynamics, accountability, it's all changing. Things that might have flown under the radar before are being looked at way differently now.
Which I think is good. It means we're more aware of the potential for harm, especially when there are power imbalances, and we're holding people responsible in ways we didn't before.
I agree. And that awareness, it probably means we'll see more situations like this, where accusations come out, careers get hit, even if there's no legal conviction.
So these questions aren't going away, it seems. No easy map for navigating this kind of territory.
Not really, but I think the more we talk about it, the better chance we have of understanding each other, creating a culture where everyone feels safe, respected, heard, you know.
And to do that, I think we need to be open to hearing different sides, even if they make us uncomfortable, challenge our own beliefs.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, this is bigger than entertainment, bigger than fandom. This is about how we act as humans, right and wrong, power, responsibility.
Those are conversations worth having, even when they're tough.
Couldn't agree more. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you something to think about, maybe even started some conversations of your own. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep learning.